The traveler had been walking for many days, though by now the number of days no longer mattered. Time had slipped away from him in strange, uncertain ways. The sun had risen and set, the wind had carried the scent of pine and river, and the road beneath his boots had stretched on with neither promise nor end. He was tired, yet not with the sharp fatigue of labor. It was the deeper, quieter exhaustion that comes when the heart grows weary of searching and not finding. He did not know exactly what he searched for, only that the paths behind him had felt empty, and that some gentle pull had urged him forward into lands he had never seen before. On this night, the hills gave way to a wide valley. The air was colder here, touched with the sharp sweetness of mountain streams. Mist gathered in low drifts, curling between the rocks and grasses, making the valley seem like a sea of silver foam. The traveler stopped upon a ridge and looked down. At first, he thought the valley floor was lit by lanterns. Dotted across the misty plain were points of light, warm and steady, like the glow of windows after dusk. But then he realized that these lights were not burning. They shimmered too softly, too purely, without smoke or flicker. They glowed as though each had been brushed with moonlight, and then he lifted his eyes to the sky. The moon hung above, full and round, enormous in its brilliance. But more than its size was its presence. It was as though the moon had drawn closer to the earth, leaning down to gaze tenderly upon this hidden valley. Its silver light washed everything in calm radiance: the hills, the streams, the mist, the traveler himself. He could see every detail of the land below as though it were bathed in daylight, yet the colors were softened, gentled, dreamlike. There was no darkness here, not truly. Shadows existed, but they were faint, translucent things, as if even the night itself could not resist the moon's embrace. The traveler's breath caught. He felt, quite suddenly, that he had stepped out of the ordinary world and into something set apart, a place preserved in silence and silver light. He began to descend. The path wound downward in gentle curves, bordered by tall grasses that shimmered as though dusted with frost. His boots made little sound upon the earth. Even the wind seemed hushed, carrying only the faintest rustle of leaves. As he walked, the lights below grew clearer. They were windows, yes, windows after all. For now he could see the shapes of houses gathered across the valley floor. Roofs sloped steeply, their tiles gleaming pale in the moonlight. Chimneys rose tall, though no smoke rose from them. Narrow streets wound between the houses, paved with smooth stone that caught the silver glow. A village lay there, quiet as a held breath. The traveler paused at the valley's edge, taking in the sight. There was no movement. No dogs barked, no doors creaked, no voices carried. Yet the village did not feel abandoned. On the contrary, it seemed as though the houses themselves watched and waited. Their glowing windows like eyes filled with calm patience. He entered the first street dot the stones beneath. His boots gleamed faintly, their surfaces polished smooth by years of steps. The buildings leaned close to one another, walls painted in pale hues that the moonlight turned silver and pearl. Wooden shutters framed the windows, though none were closed. Each window shone with that soft glow he had mistaken for lanterns. Yet as he drew near, he saw no flame within. The lights seemed to come from the very air inside the houses. A gentle luminescence without source. The traveler lifted a hand to one window. Through the glass, he saw a simple rooma table, a chair, shelves lined with earthenware bowls. Everything was neat, orderly, untouched. And yet there was no one there. No shadow passed across the glow. No figure moved within. He stepped back, uneasy yet not afraid. The silence was not oppressive. It was more like a hush before song, a pause filled with expectancy. The street curved, leading him deeper. He passed doorways arched with carved wood, their thresholds worn smooth by years of passage. He passed fountains where water flowed silently, its surface catching the moonlight like polished silver. He passed trees planted at intervals, their leaves glimmering as though each carried a drop of starlight. Still, he saw no one. The traveler wondered if he had stumbled upon a village of dreams, a place existing only in the hours when the moon was full. Perhaps when dawn came, the valley would empty, and this village would dissolve back into mist and silence. Yet he felt no urge to leave. Something in the air soothed him, a peace he had not known in years. The weight of his long wandering eased, as though he had come at last to where his journey wished to end. He found a bench of stone beneath a flowering tree and sat. The blossoms above were pale as milk, their petals drifting down like snow, though no wind stirred them. One landed upon his sleeve, glowing faintly in the moonlight before dissolving into nothingness. The traveler closed his eyes, and for the first time in a very long while, he listened not to the world outside, but to the silence within. The traveler sat upon the stone bench beneath the flowering tree for a long while. The night was deep, yet it did not grow darker. The moon remained as constant as a watchful guardian, pouring its silver light over every roof and every path. It was not a cold light. Though pale, it carried a strange warmth, as though it remembered the sun and held its glow in gentler form. The petals that drifted from the tree above seemed to shimmer with life, each dissolving like mist before it touched the ground. The traveler found himself wondering if sleep had already claimed him. Perhaps he had stumbled into the village in a dream. Yet his hands felt the rough grain of the stone bench beneath him. His boots pressed firmly into the polished street. His breath came and went, clouding faintly in the cool night air. This was no dream. Or if it was one more real than waking life. At last he rose, drawn by the silence that pressed around him like an unspoken word. He wished to see more, to walk the streets and know what secrets lay in their stillness. The village welcomed him with quiet grace. The narrow lane before him wound between houses whose walls bore delicate curves of vines, spirals of stars, shapes that seemed to shift if he looked too long. Some houses leaned together as though sharing whispers, their roofs nearly touching. Others stood apart. Their gardens filled with pale flowers that opened wide to the moon. The traveler paused before one such garden. A stone arch marked its entrance, twined with flowering vines that glowed faintly. Beyond lay rows of blossoms unlike any he had seen. Their petals shone like glass, translucent and trembling, yet no wind moved them. He reached out, brushing one with his fingertips. It was cool, almost liquid, as though the flower were made of frozen moonlight. The petals shivered at his touch, releasing a soft hum, barely a sound, more a vibration felt in the bones. The traveler withdrew, startled yet comforted. As though the flower had spoken in a language older than words, he continued on. Everywhere he walked, he saw signs of life, yet no people. The fountains flowed, the lanterns glowed, the flowers bloomed. Curtains stirred faintly at windows, as though someone had just passed by inside. But the streets themselves remained empty, echoing only with the soft rhythm of his steps. The traveler began to wonder, was he alone here? Or was the village filled with unseen eyes, watching from the glow of their windows? He stopped before a tall building larger than the houses around it. Its doors were carved with patterns of the moon in all her phases, crescent, half, full, and hidden. A great circular window above gleamed with silver glass. Something pulled him toward it. Slowly, he pushed the doors open. They moved with surprising ease, no creak or protest. Inside lay a hall, vast and silent. Pillars of white stone rose to a vaulted ceiling painted with stars. The stars glimmered faintly, as though the paint itself held fragments of night. At the center of the hall stood a pool of water, round and still. The moon shone directly through the great window, striking the pool's surface. The water caught the light and scattered it across the walls, where the silver reflections moved like waves. The traveler stepped closer. The pool was not deep. He could see its bottom, lined with tiles of smooth stone. Yet, when he gazed into the water, he did not see his reflection. Instead, he saw shifting images, landscapes, faces, skies filled with stars. They appeared and vanished like thoughts passing through a dream. He knelt beside the pool, entranced. One moment, he saw a child laughing beneath a willow tree. The next, a ship drifting across an endless sea. Then, a mountain crowned with fire. Then, a face gentle old, with eyes like dark pools. The traveler's heart quickened. For an instant, he felt the face looked back at him, seeing not only his body, but the very core of his being. And then it was gone. The water stilled. He leaned back, shaken yet oddly comforted. Whatever he had seen, it was not meant to harm. The pool seemed to hold memories, or perhaps dreams. Gathered by the moon's light, the silence in the hall deepened, wrapping around him like a cloak. He rose, bowing his head slightly as though in respect to whatever power dwelled here. Then he turned and left the hall, stepping once more into the quiet street. Outside, the village seemed even more hushed than before. He felt the weight of its gaze, though still he saw no one. "Is anyone here?" he called softly. His voice echoed along the stone street, fading into the night. No reply came, only the whisper of water in the fountains, the hum of unseen flowers, yet he could not shake the sense that someone or something heard him. He walked on, his steps carrying him deeper into the village's heart. The streets widened, leading toward what seemed to be a square. In its center rose a great tree, older than any he had seen. Its trunk was massive, its bark pale and smooth as ivory. Branches spread high, bearing leaves that shone like silver coins. Beneath its boughs lay benches and lanterns. Though no one sat there, the traveler approached slowly. As he did, a soft sound reached him, a voice, faint, low, like the murmur of a distant stream. He froze, listening. The voice seemed to come from the tree itself, a whisper threading through the leaves. The words were not in any tongue he knew, yet their rhythm soothed him, gentle as a lullaby. He placed a hand upon the tree's bark. It was warm, pulsing faintly, as though life ran through it like blood. The whisper deepened, filling his mind with images moonlit valleys. Endless nights, the faces of countless travelers who had stood where he now stood. The traveler closed his eyes. For the first time since entering the valley, he felt he was not alone. The village lived. Not in the way ordinary villages lived, with people bustling and markets buzzing. No, this place breathed in silence. Its voice was in the trees, the flowers, the pools of water. Its eyes were in the windows, glowing softly with unseen presence. The traveler whispered back, though he did not know why, "I am here." The leaves rustled, though no wind stirred. A single silver leaf drifted down, landing upon his shoulder. He touched it gently. It dissolved like the blossom before it, vanishing into light. The traveler lifted his gaze to the great tree's branches. For the first time, he wondered not if the village was empty, but if its people were simply different. Perhaps they walked in another way, unseen by eyes bound to the ordinary world. Perhaps he would see them soon, and perhaps, in this village beneath the eternal moon, he would learn why he had been drawn here at all. The traveler lingered beneath the ancient tree for a long while, listening to the murmurs of its leaves. The sound had grown softer now, a hushed lullaby that folded around him like a blanket. His heart felt strangely calm, though his mind swirled with questions. He had walked silent streets, peered into glowing windows, touched flowers that hummed like silver strings, and gazed into a pool that reflected not his face but countless shifting visions. Yet still, he had seen no person, heard no footsteps but his own, and yet he could not shake the sense that he was being guided. The great tree seemed to agree, for as he sat beneath its branches, a path revealed itself, though it had not been visible before. Between two stone benches, where moments ago there had been only grass, now stretched a narrow lane paved with pale tiles. They gleamed faintly, as though lit from within, leading away into the shadows of the village. The traveler rose slowly. His heart beat with a quiet anticipation. He knew, though he could not explain how, that this was the way he was meant to go. He followed the glowing path. The lane wound through the village like a thread of light. Around him, the houses grew taller, their walls carved with intricate patterns that seemed to shift when the corner of his eye caught them. Spirals deepened into eyes, vines coiled into stars, waves became wings. The traveler's gaze lingered on them, and he felt again that they were not mere decorations but stories, carved in silence. The path ended before a building unlike any he had yet seen. It was neither a house nor a hall, but something in between night's walls curved like the crescent of a moon, its roof rising in gentle arcs that caught the silver light. Vines of pale flowers climbed its surface, and in their glow he saw words etched above the doorway. He did not know the language. Yet somehow, as his eyes traced the shapes, the meaning bloomed within his mind. The house of dreams. The traveler placed a hand upon the door. It yielded without resistance, opening inward with a sigh like the release of long-held breath. Inside was dim, though not with darkness. The air itself shimmered faintly, as though filled with dust motes of light. The floor was soft beneath his boots, not stone, but something woven, silken, and yielding. Along the walls hung countless draperies, each painted or stitched with scenes that shifted as he looked, landscapes of endless deserts, seas rising beneath stars, forests where blossoms glowed like lanterns. At the center of the room sat a figure, old, yet not frail, draped in robes the color of midnight, stitched with threads that caught the light like constellations. Their hair flowed long and silver, spilling over their shoulders in waves. Their face was lined not with age's decay, but with the grace of time, each wrinkle like a river that had carved its patient way. The traveler froze. The figure lifted their head. Their eyes shone dark and deep, filled with reflections of stars and moons the traveler had never seen. When they spoke, their voice was soft, carrying the weight of both lullaby and eternity. "You have come," they said. The traveler swallowed. His voice, when it came, felt small against the vastness of the room. "I do not know how. I only walked. I was led here." The figure nodded, as though this were the answer expected. "All who arrive here are led. The moon does not guide by chance. She opens her path to those who wander with hearts still awake to wonder." The traveler felt a shiver down his spine. "And you? Who are you?" The figure's lips curved in a faint smile. "I am the keeper of dreams. This is my house, where the village entrusts its stories, its memories, its visions. Few see me with waking eyes. Fewer still are permitted to speak here, but you have been called." The traveler hesitated. Called for what? The keeper's gaze deepened. The light in their eyes flickered like shifting constellations. To remember. The word fell heavy, like a bell tolling in still air. The traveler's heart trembled. He thought of his long journey, the endless roads, the weariness that had pressed him forward though he knew not why. He thought of the empty villages, the lands where he had searched for meaning and found only dust. "What must I remember?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The keeper rose slowly, their robes flowing like water. They moved to one of the draperies, where a great forest was stitched in silver thread. Raising a hand, they touched the cloth. The forest shimmered, its stitched trees swaying, its rivers flowing, till it seemed no longer thread, but a window into another place. "You must remember what the world has forgotten," said the keeper, "that dreams are not idle fancies, but the breath of life itself. That within dreams lie the truths too vast for waking minds to hold. This village endures because it is woven of dream and memory, preserved beneath the moon's eternal gaze, and you, traveler of weary roads, were drawn here to listen." The traveler stared at the shimmering tapestry. The forest within it seemed endless, and for a moment he thought he heard its leaves rustle, smelled the damp of its soil. He turned to the keeper. "But why me?" The old figure regarded him with eyes that seemed to pierce all veils. "Because you still carry the hunger for wonder. Many walk the world with eyes closed, though wide open. You did not. You followed the pull, though you did not understand it. That is enough." Silence stretched. The traveler's chest ached with a strange mixture of fear and relief. The keeper gestured to the center of the room. "Come, sit. Tonight you will listen, and in listening, remember." The traveler obeyed. The soft floor gave beneath him like moss, comforting and cool. The keeper sat opposite, folding their robes around them. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the faint shimmer in the air, like 100 unseen lullabies humming at once. Then the keeper began to tell a story. Their voice flowed low and gentle, yet carried a weight that made the very air lean closer. They spoke of the first night the moon gazed upon the valley, of a time when this place was wild, filled with rivers roaring and mountains trembling, of how the moon descended, shedding her light upon the chaos, and the land grew still, softened into peace. The rivers calmed, the mountains rested, the mist curled gentle as breath, and from that peace arose the village, its houses shaped of moonlight and stone, its trees planted by star-lit hands. "This is no ordinary village," said the keeper. "It is the memory of peace itself, kept safe beneath the moon. And those who wander lost, weary of the world, are sometimes brought here to drink of its silence, to listen to its voice." The traveler's eyes blurred with tears he did not understand. He felt as though the words were not merely told to him, but planted in him. Roots sinking into forgotten soil. The keeper's voice softened. "Dreams are not made only of sleep. They are the threads that weave every step you take, the hidden current beneath the waking stream. You have walked long, searching. Now you must rest and remember." The traveler bowed his head. He felt the weight of his journey lift, replaced by something gentler, like being held, like being seen. The keeper extended a hand. "Will you stay tonight?" The traveler nodded. The keeper's hand touched his brow, cool, gentle, like moonlight itself. And in that touch, the traveler felt the boundaries of waking dissolve. He drifted not into darkness, but into light. 1,000 visions unfurled within him, flowing like rivers of silver. Forests, seas, stars, faces he knew, and faces he had never seen. His heart swelled, not with fear, but with wonder. And as he sank into dream, he heard the keeper's voice, soft as the rustle of leaves. Rest, traveler. The moon keeps watch. Tomorrow, the village will show you more. The traveler did not know how long the festival had lasted. Time in the village did not flow as it did elsewhere. The music of silver chimes, the drifting of lanterns that rose like stars, the laughter that was not heard but felt in the bones it, had all blurred into something timeless. And then, just as gently as it had begun, the celebration faded. The lanterns dissolved into mist, the chimes softened into silence. And the villagers, those mysterious presences who had at last revealed themselves, returned to the stillness of their homes. The traveler found himself once more beneath the great moon, standing at the edge of the square where the ancient tree spread its branches. The keeper of dreams had stood beside him through it all, silent, watchful. Now, the old figure turned, their eyes shimmering like pools of starlight. "It is time," the keeper said softly. The traveler's heart stirred. "Time for what?" "For you to walk the path beyond shadows," replied the keeper. "Every traveler who comes here must walk it. For though this village is a place of peace, it is not meant to keep you forever in forgetting. To remember who you are and why you were called. You must walk where the moon's light does not fully reach." The traveler hesitated. Until now, every part of the village had glowed with gentle silver, safe and comforting. The thought of stepping into a place where that light faltered filled him with quiet unease. The keeper must have seen it, for they laid a hand upon his shoulder. "Do not fear. The moon never abandons those she calls. But her light cannot soften all shadows. Some must be faced, not dissolved." The traveler nodded slowly. "I will walk." The keeper's lips curved into a faint, approving smile. They gestured toward the base of the ancient tree. Between its great roots, a narrow passage had opened, dark, winding, like the hollow of a cave. Mist coiled faintly within. Swallowing the silver glow, the traveler drew a breath and stepped forward. The air changed as soon as he entered. It was cooler, heavier, touched with the scent of damp earth. The walls of the passage pulsed faintly, as though carved not from stone, but from living roots. His footsteps echoed softly, swallowed by silence. Yet though the path darkened, it was not without light. Threads of silver gleamed along the walls, pulsing faintly, as though the moon's radiance had woven itself even here in hidden veins. They were enough to guide him onward. The passage wound deeper, and the traveler soon lost all sense of direction. He did not know whether he walked beneath the village, or beyond it, or in some space altogether apart. All he knew was the steady rhythm of his steps and the way the silver veins glowed brighter whenever his heart faltered. At last, the passage opened. He stepped into a vast cavern, its ceiling lost in shadow. Pools of water dotted the ground, their surfaces mirror still. In each, The moon's reflection shimmered, though no moon shone here. The light seemed borrowed. Summoned from memory, the traveler approached one of the pools and gazed in. At first, he saw only his own reflection. But then it wavered, shifting, until he beheld scenes from his life roads he had walked, faces he had passed, places he had left behind. He saw the villages where he had lingered, the empty inns, the restless paths. He saw himself, weary and searching, always moving forward without knowing why. His chest tightened. He stepped to another pool. This one did not show the past, but the things he had buried, regrets sharp as thorns. Moments he had looked away when someone needed him. Words left unsaid, dreams abandoned. The water's surface showed them all, each vision pressing into him with quiet weight. The traveler knelt, trembling. His throat ached with words he could not speak. A voice rose within the cavern. Not the keeper's, not his own, but something deeper hewing from the walls. The pools, the very air. To walk the path beyond shadows is to see not only what was, but what you carry. The moonlight comforts, but it does not erase. To walk forward, you must walk with all of yourself, both light and shadow. The traveler bowed his head. Tears blurred his vision, falling into the pool and scattering the images into ripples. For a long while he knelt, breathing, listening to the silence. At last he rose. The pool still shimmered, but he no longer turned from them. He walked among them slowly, allowing each reflection to rise, each memory to pass. Some made him ache, some filled him with quiet joy, but he did not look away. He carried them all. At the far end of the cavern, another passage waited. Its mouth was brighter, touched with silver glow. The traveler stepped toward it. The passage opened not into another cavern, but onto a ridge high above the valley. He gasped. Below him stretched the village, its roofs gleaming like silver scales, its streets winding like rivers of pearl. The great tree rose tall, its leaves shining like countless coins. And above it all, the moon still hung, vast and patient, but beyond the village, beyond the misty valley, he saw what he had not seen before. A wide world stretched outward, shadowed hills and endless plains, rivers that glittered faintly even in night. It was a world still waiting, vast and untold. The traveler's breath caught in his throat. He realized then that the village was not an ending place, but a resting one, a haven beneath the moon where travelers came to remember before walking onward. And he understood, soon, he would have to choose, stay within the moon's eternal glow, or step beyond, carrying its light into the world's shadows. The wind brushed softly against him, carrying the faint rustle of leaves, the keeper's voice echoing as though from far below. Every traveler must decide. The moon keeps you, but she also sends you forth. The path is not chosen for you. It is yours alone. The traveler closed his eyes. The silence of the village, the whispers of the tree, the stories of the keeper, all of it stirred within him. His heart was full, heavy and light at once. When he opened his eyes, The moon shone brighter, as though awaiting his answer, and the traveler knew the path beyond shadows was not yet done. His final choice still lay ahead. The moon was at its highest point, glowing with a brilliance that seemed almost too radiant for the night sky. Its light spilled like a silver river over rooftops, cobblestones, and the endless fields beyond. The traveler stood once again in the very heart of the village, where the lanterns flickered softly, their golden flames bowing in reverence to the eternal moon above. But this night felt different. Something hung in the air, an unspoken tension, weight that pressed gently upon the heart. The traveler had spent countless nights beneath the eternal glow of the village. They had wandered its dreamlike streets, listened to the whispers of its stones, danced in the festival of silver light, and walked the path beyond shadows where dreams mingled with memories. Here, time had ceased to matter. Days no longer chained themselves to clocks, and years did not bend the back nor dim the eye. Yet now, a quiet stirring rose from within, a pull both tender and bittersweet. For the first time, the traveler felt the village itself asking a question: will you stay or will you leave? The choice in the heart, the keeper of dreams, had said it long ago. Every soul who finds this village must one day choose. No one was ever forced to remain beneath the moon's glow, nor were they bound to return to the world of shifting days. The village offered peace everlasting, but peace was not the only hunger of the human heart. The traveler walked slowly to the Whispering Well, a place they had visited many times before. Its waters shimmered with moonlight, mirroring the night sky in perfect reflection. As they leaned over its edge, the water rippled not with wind, but with memory. The surface unfolded images of the past, the day they first arrived, weary and lost, stumbling upon the glowing valley. The silent streets that had watched them with curiosity. The laughter of children at the festival of silver light. The haunting beauty of the path beyond shadows. And beyond all of this, the life they had left behind, the life outside the village. The life that seemed so far away now, faces appeared in the water. Some were blurred by time, yet others were painfully clear. Friends, family, strangers on long-forgotten roads. There were promises, unkept letters, never written, voices that still called in dreams. The traveler's heart tightened. The village was a dream, yes, but so too was the world beyond. A conversation with the moon that night. The traveler wandered to the hill where the great moon seemed closest, as if it could be touched with an outstretched hand. The white deer was waiting there, antlers glowing like woven silver threads. Its eyes held a sadness, as though it already knew the decision that weighed upon the traveler's heart. You have walked the paths. The deer spoke in its voice that was neither sound nor silence. And you have seen both wonder and shadow. But no path is endless. The moon lights what you choose, but it does not choose for you. The traveler gazed up at the sky, at that eternal moon whose light had been both comfort and mystery. If I stay, they whispered, I will know peace. But if I go, I will return to sorrow, to time. two endings. The deer lowered its head, brushing its nose against the traveler's hand. Peace is a gift, it murmured, but so too is struggle. Without the weight of time, one forgets the sweetness of moments. Without loss, one cannot measure love. To remain is to dream without end. To leave is to wake and carry the dream with you. The traveler's eyes filled with tears. For though they had come to love this place, they knew the deer spoke truth. The final gathering word of the traveler's choice seemed to spread through the village like wind through trees. The villagers gathered in the square, not with sadness, but with reverence. Each face glowed with moonlight, serene and gentle. They offered no words of persuasion nor pleas for the traveler to remain. Instead, they stood in silence, as though bearing witness to a sacred rite. The keeper of dreams stepped forward, holding a lantern unlike any the traveler had seen before. Its glass was etched with moon symbols, and its flame was white, not gold. "This is the lantern of return," the keeper said, voice calm as the river. "It will guide you beyond the valley, through the forest, and back to the world you once knew. Carry it close, for its flame will protect the memory of this place, so that even when days grow heavy and nights grow long, you will remember the village beneath the moon." The traveler accepted the lantern with trembling hands. The villagers bowed their heads, their faces lit with peace, their silence a benediction. The walk beyond the valley, the traveler left the village in the stillness before dawn. Guided by the pale flame, the cobblestones grew softer beneath their feet, turning to moss, then soil. The houses faded into the mist. The music of the village, the whispers of lanterns, the laughter of children, the murmurs of trees dissolved into silence. Yet even as the village slipped away, the traveler felt it had not truly vanished. It was becoming part of them, stitched into their breath, their heartbeat, their very soul. The forest beyond was dark, but the lantern glowed steadily. Each step carried them farther from the eternal moonlight, closer to the shifting world of dawn. They could almost hear the village bidding farewell in the rustling leaves, in the sigh of wind, in the faint glimmer of silver mist that trailed behind them. Dawn at last. The traveler reached the edge of the valley. Before them stretched rolling hills bathed in the soft blush of sunrise. For the first time in what felt like lifetimes, the sun rose not, the eternal silver glow of the moon, but the warm, fleeting fire of dawn tears spilled down the traveler's cheeks. The light was harsher than moonlight, yet beautiful in its impermanence. It promised days filled with joy and sorrow, beginnings and endings. Love and loss, the traveler turned once more, gazing back at the valley. The village was gone. Only mist lingered where it had been, glowing faintly as though kissed by moonlight. And then even that faded, leaving only memory. The traveler lifted the lantern, its white flame burning softly against the rising sun. A whisper stirred in the air, perhaps the voice of the moon, perhaps the village itself. You are never truly gone from here. You carry us now, wherever you walk. And with that, the traveler stepped into the waking world, carrying within them a dream eternal. Epilogue: the dream lives on years later. When nights grew heavy and the world seemed sharp with sorrow, the traveler would light the lantern of return, and each time the flame shimmered silver, and for a moment they would hear laughter on the wind, see lanterns flicker in the distance, and feel the quiet comfort of the moonlit village. The village beneath the moon lived on, not just in the valley, but in every heart that carried its memory, and perhaps, somewhere far away, another weary soul stumbled upon the glowing valley. Stepping into the timeless dream